This, you read the first one, you read this one. Yes. Okay, so then.
Yeah, lots. The subjects have all been removed. Financing is all in place, we just gotta sign documents for that. And when they did the septic inspection, the gentleman recommended a fix that's not too expensive, but they had to lift the fix in order to expose and get to it, so we have to leave it exposed so they can pay to have that done. Then they can put the bricks on. But I think it's an important option.
So technically
Yeah. Tracy, we can have a conversation after this meeting, maybe just have it with the main. Right, but we'll be here for 2 hours.
Tracy? It's not a big deal because I had the.
Oh, you had the other.
So I'm just not.
Here's your room. I will go with you. See you in
They're gentlemen, his name will be on his 14. And then I move in there on the 19th and I have to be out with my rental here August 1st. Yeah, I'll have to. And I'm getting dental, the next phase of dental surgery. I had dental surgery, when was that? You were here, I think, it went good. So I'm gonna make sure I take myself time this time.
I do, yeah.
Cause I thought I would bounce right down the luck that way. I've never had this procedure before. It's a lot more invasive than I've had that before. They actually couldn't save it to me, so I have that. So required. Yeah, it's as awful as it sounds. I find going to the dentist hard anyway, it's just too challenging. Meeting my pain specialist, it's still. I actually love that show. More comfortable. Well, they're
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I will never do that again, that was a mistake. Dangerous. Did this, like they had to do, they have to wait 4 months for the next work. So that's how much it was. Right in the middle of all that. Yeah. Yeah, everything at the same time.
Are you going to Typhoid now because it's like this is not quite so Caribbean.
Okay, yeah. And then I had a conversation with the
it's going, I'm so sleepy.
Very hungry.
Yeah.
And the smallest.
I've got a grandson who's got, I would say,
Well,
I would say, I would say,
And then
Yeah, yeah.
This is all the.
Yeah, okay. If I install. You know who we
Click on the minute. So it's important, I think, that you speak up though, so everybody will be.
That's the. Well, I went back to the same.
Sorry?
That's good, because that's what it is. So that means.
Okay, I see that it's 7 o'clock. What's going on here? Are we ready to go live? Yeah, we're live? Okay. So I'm calling to order the regular meeting of council, Town of Gibsons Council, on July 4th, 2023, held here at council chambers at 7 p.m. And we're honored to gather on the traditional territories of the Skokomish Nation. And our first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor DeAndrade, seconded Councillor Lumley. All those in favor? That motion carries. Adoption of the minutes. We have minutes for 3 meetings: a special council meeting June 20th, regular council meeting June 6th, and a special council meeting June 6th. And let's see, they're all to be adopted, so we can move them all at one. Oh, and there is an amendment to one of them. But can I get a motion? Well, can I get a motion to move them as amended with Councillor DeAndrade? You can detail what the amendment, or move them with the change that Councillor DeAndrade's opposition be noted to resolution. Do you have that in front of you?
Yes, Mayor. Resolution 2023-118.
Okay. Got it? Yeah. That was just a missed, we've got a template that's not picking up the opposed votes that needs to be corrected. So Councillor DeAndrade did identify that one that we're correcting. So we need it. Moved by Councillor DeAndrade. Which date was that?
June 6th.
June 6th, yeah.
The special.
Seconded. Could you second that? Yeah, seconded Councillor Lumley. All those in favor? That motion carries. Committee reports. We have Committee of the Whole meeting minutes, pages 21 to 23, and 2 recommendations. Council spoke to both of these issues extensively, discussed, and lots of questions were asked at that time. And the first recommendation is regarding the Gibsons Public Market Playground Project 4.1.2. And that recommendation is as written. Councillor Lumley? Is that to move that recommendation to authorize the construction and prepare an amendment to the license of occupation of lots 45 and 44 and 45? Is there a seconder? Seconded Councillor DeAndrade. Any discussion of the motion? Councillor Kroll?
Through you, Mayor White. At Committee of the Whole, I mentioned that I thought it would be expedient. I got the sense at Committee of the Whole that with approval, this playground will proceed sort of immediately. And my feeling was that it should be done in conjunction with the development of the bay, should that go ahead, or until we at least know.
The harbor, right?
The harbor,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Not Bay Pizza across the street, but.
Right. Anyway, the harbor, I think it would just be expedient to, that there might be synergies for economy if the projects were considered to go together. So in light of that, I can't support this motion at this time.
Okay. I think we discussed that at the time, and I mean, it's kind of not in council's purview to decide when people can stagger their projects. I mean, it is a good recommendation, I think, to work with the harbor, assuming that it does go ahead, but we don't know that at this point. Councillor DeAndrade?
Just a question, it's just a clarification. The town of Gibson won't have any expense incurred with this project. That's my understanding.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
The town of Gibsons will have no expenses incurred with this project. This is a project solely by the Gibson Society.
That's definitely
Society.
our understanding from the meeting, but I'll just get that confirmation from staff.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. Other than the time to process the request and the documentation, that's about it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? That motion carries. 4.1.3 is 561 Marine Crescent flood exemption. And yeah, this was another one we discussed extensively at the meeting. Yeah, particularly around the proper process here. Let's see. And that is that the recommendation that committee made is that the flood exemption be authorized, reducing the required flood setback from 15 meters to the natural boundary of 7.5 as written here. Councillor Lumley?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I know the advisory design panel, and I know Councillor Kroll sits on it, and I know the minutes were attached, but.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Lumley, we're not on that item.
Oh, we
yeah,
aren't?
Yeah, we're still on 4.1.3.
Oh, okay, sorry, that was
Yeah.
4.2,
Yeah,
sorry.
so we're just looking for a motion for that recommendation. Councillor Kroll, are you moving that?
I'll move
Yeah.
with that.
Need a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion of the recommendation? Councillor DeAndrade?
Thank you. It's another clarification because one of my concerns was setting precedent. And depending on the location, I understand that in this particular location, there's no problems with Gibson's infrastructure or anything. There's no even a walk. But I just want to ensure that this will not set a precedent that any case, any request will be a case by case.
Yeah, I recall we talked about this in committee, and the rationale from staff was very site-specific and had some very site-specific criteria for assessing whether this should be done, and that's why committee made the recommendation of support. So it's not a blanket precedent. It needs to be, all of these decisions need to be site-specific, is what I got out of the committee. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion? The motion carries. And now 4.2, advisory design panel meeting. And I think Councillor Lumley has questions about the minutes.
Thanks, sorry for jumping ahead there, but yeah, I just wondered, I was glad that I clarified earlier with another councillor to my right that I didn't get anything from the addition of the minutes from the meeting. I'm not sure it's a little, I'm just not sure what I'm supposed to get from the minutes from the advisory panel committee meeting because it doesn't really say anything. So I just wondered maybe Councillor Kroll might be able to add maybe a verbal rundown of like what was discussed during the meeting, or maybe nothing was discussed, I don't know, but it just says 2 people presented, and then they just said their recommendation was to adopt it, so.
Yeah, it's a relevant question. I think maybe we could go to staff first. I mean, I think clearly the practice now in ADP minutes is to just report on any motions, similar to our meetings. However, I do recall in the past, I think Councillor Lumley is probably thinking of the past, there would be more in detail on discussions at those meetings. I don't know if that was happening this past term, but the term before. I'll look to the corporate officer to.
Usually the ADP minutes come forward to you within a staff report. And then there's usually more to them. I believe that the Director of Planning might be available online, but I'm not sure. Yeah, she is available via Zoom if you have a question for her.
We'll look to the Director of Planning first.
Thank you. Hi. So the ADP minutes are going to council just for information at this point. Council's already given the bylaws first reading for the harbor. And when we bring the next report forward with more information, we would have the ADP recommendation in there along with any additional referral comments before the public hearing. So it's just for information that the ADP supported or supports moving this development forward.
Okay. Councillor Lumley?
Okay, I'm just going to beat this dead horse, but I think what's happened is that there's an ADP committee prior to the last council that would bring forward minutes to their meeting with actual, like meat on the bone, like each person would say, hey, listen, I agree with this if this happens, or if, what about this, and what, I don't agree with this, but, you know, and then I know that last council, obviously, the former mayor made council the advisory panel. So, I mean, I guess we didn't get any minutes for 4 years because we were all on the advisory panel. Now that we're not on the advisory panel, all I'm saying is that this attachment of this report, and no disrespect to anybody, but it's useless because I don't get anything from it. So, you know, you're just saying that the advisory panel is okay or recommends it go forward. It's kind of like, if you don't have time to go to all the advisory panel committees, it would be nice to see like just a little bit of documentation with respect to the discussions on the advisory panel, because I think we rely on that. At least I used to, because I would read it and go, oh, that's a good point, you know, because I'm not intimately involved in the planning process. But anyway, that was just my confusion on the whole thing.
I think it would have been from 2011 to 2018. There was a APC. There was an advisory planning commission, and that's when what you're referring to, Councillor Lumley, of when there was more detail in the minutes. And then there was a committee of council. I think it was called the PDC, Planning and Development Committee of Council, and I don't know what happened, what the minutes were like then. Now there's an ADP, so they weren't all the ADP, but Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor Wade. I think just to spare printing and stuff, it was a fairly lengthy meeting on this project, but it is going to be coming back to the ADP, and because it wasn't a report attached to this, I think to the Director of Planning's comment, it's why the whole thing wasn't fleshed out, because when it comes back to the ADP, some of the changes that were suggested may in fact already be incorporated. So because there's not, at this point, all we're looking at really is the acknowledgement of the ADP met to discuss this project. Right? It just, at this point, it didn't make a lot of sense as it's coming back to the ADP to, you know, get into the weeds.
Yeah, I think
certainly at the ADP meeting, we did get into the weeds.
I think maybe internally we'll have a look at what we could do to, if it's possible, to get the standard of minutes to be back to what it was in 2017, 2018 is the last time, or whether it was last term. So we could look at that. Yeah.
It just doesn't seem to make any sense to have this really on the agenda. Like,
And it's not here for adoption or anything or approval, it's just for information. And yeah, it's out of the context of the actual development, you're correct, so. That's just there for information. I think we've discussed this. Now administration reports, 5.1. Director of Corporate and Legislative Services and Communications Coordinator are presenting the Town of Gibson's annual report.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Bronwyn is here to speak to what she has received so far. And you've seen the draft that she has presented, and it's been made available. She's going to go through what she's done to make it available to the public. And then we may wish to see if anyone here today has any feedback on it.
Yeah, so the annual report was made available to the public as of June 15th. So just over 2 weeks, which is the required time. There was 2 ads placed in the Coast Reporter. It was sent in our newsletter. A copy was at the front desk, posted to social media, and what am I missing? I think that's it. And so far, no feedback has been received.
Thank you. So there is a recommendation that it be considered, and secondly, it be approved. I think that's following legislation, right? That it needs to be considered and then approved.
That's required under the community.
We can't just approve it. We have to consider it first by motion. Are there any other questions or comments on the plan? Councillor Kroll?
Thank you, Mayor White. Something I really like is the landscape format. It's a little bit different. It's I think just visually very attractive, and it sort of makes the report stand out from the others that traditionally are portrait. And a lot of I love all the use of photographs. It's again, it just makes it very pleasurable to go through it and connect the dots, and it's a beautiful sort of trip down memory lane. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Lumley.
I echo Councillor Kroll's thoughts about the presentation, and I thought it was great, and it's concise. It's brutal when you just have reams and reams of writing without a picture or a graph. Now, I did notice Sue Booth had a bulletproof vest on in one of the pictures. I guess it's getting tough out on the streets there. I don't know, but anyway, thanks.
That was intentional.
Councillor D'Andrade.
Yeah, I cannot miss the opportunity to echo all the comments. Yeah, and I appreciate it. It was quite detailed, but you managed to make it very concise. So yeah, the information is great. And I think it gives the public a good overview of the year and what council is working, what staff is working. It gives a good balance for everybody, and included many people from the town. I think it was really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So is there a motion to staff recommendations here? Councillor Kroll, seconded. Councillor Thompson. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? The motion carries. And next, we're on to page 5. Just from the Planning Department, temporary use permit applications to allow non-principal residents, RGAs, batch 3. And these are just to send these out for notification at this point, to send the notifications to the neighbors of these 4 applications, on Headlands Road, South Fletcher Road, Wells Lane, and Gower Point Road. And staff is available to answer any questions about this. Councillor Lumley? Okay, moved by Councillor Lumley, seconded by Councillor Kroll. Any discussion? Councillor D'Andrade?
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's a question because the subject says applications to allow non-principal residential. And then there are 2 principal residents. So that I got confused with the report to start because I wasn't sure where I was going with this. And then I would also like to better understand on page, the evaluation batch, when all the criteria is displayed. I would like to better understand some of the criteria.
Okay, we may need to go into that a bit further on what you need to better understand, but I see Kirsten from our planning department is with us.
Thank you.
Is there anything you can explain from that?
Yeah, sure, through you, Mayor. Thank you. On the first question, that's a good clarification. It's something that causes confusion for a lot of, oh, can you hear me?
Not really. Yeah, I mean, we can, with a lot of concentration. I'm just hoping maybe the volume could be turned up a little. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I can wait. Just give me a cue when you can hear
That's
me.
better, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, as far as oh, I'm hearing myself, sorry. The principal resident, non-principal residence RGA refers to, well, to back up, principal residence RGA as defined in the bylaws is referring to the resident of a dwelling unit. So this could be any unit, whether it be a garden suite, a secondary suite, a second dwelling unit on a property, or a principal dwelling that doesn't have someone in that unit that lives there as their principal residence. So it's a whole dwelling unit as opposed to sharing a bedroom in your unit or sharing your own principal residence while you're on vacation. So that's the scope of stream 2 is. So even though you might have another unit on the property, that unit is not a principal residence for someone. It's now becoming a commercial unit.
Thank you. And Councillor DeAndrade, is there any more you want to elaborate on and trying to understand the?
You mean on the same or the?
I think you had a second question too, yeah.
It's on page 76 of the report where all the units are presented against some criteria. So I think I couldn't fully understand on why the 312 Headland Road TUP, which is principal dwelling unit in single family dwelling with secondary suite, gets 1 point. But then the 326, which is a newly constructed garden suite, gets -1. And I understand that there is a variance, that perhaps this is the issue, but a variance that was given by council to the garden suite. But at the same time, the moment that council gave the variance, it's a legal garden suite. So I kind of don't understand how this criteria of one unit having 1 and the other -1.
Through you, Mayor. So the first point, retaining long-term rental supply, I think this is what you're referring to. Is that the item you're referring to?
Well, on the chart, there's the 4, right? Location, no renter history, neighborhood comments, history of bylaw complaints.
Okay, yeah. So the points, it's admittedly arbitrary, but we've tried to be consistent across. So the one, you know what? That actually should be a 0. My apologies on 312 Headlands, because each of those is a neutral. They're all yellow. So that would be 0, 0, not applicable, and 0. Oh, sorry, the adjusted score, it is 0 in the column that has the tentative evaluation. And then 1 is with the adjusted items. So for example, the first one, retaining long-term rental supply as a criteria. This unit has a long-term tenant that would be the manager of the unit for a second unit. So the argument presented in the application is that rather than, for example, selling the property, they're able to keep the long-term tenant in the second unit subsidized by helping, they've got an income and they're helping with the second unit. Whereas the Wells Lane property is a different situation. It's there's no tenant, no long-term tenant. It would be a new property owner buying the property and having that second dwelling unit as an income unit and for family.
Thank you.
Councillor D'Andrade?
So, over the 3 years that we went through the bylaw, I think the goal was to avoid that people that have houses here or they have a secondary home, they don't do Airbnb with the residents. So I understand when someone lives in the property and they want to do the Airbnb to help income or whatever other reason. But I don't understand the logic of giving more points to someone that doesn't even live here. So it's doing Airbnb, but because it's renting the other unit, it gets more points. I'm just trying to understand the logic.
Councillor Lumley?
Yeah, through the mayor, because they have a long-term rental tenant on the property, and the bylaw was supposed to strengthen long-term rentals. Right? I think that's how they got the point, is that somebody rents the property, and this guy's gonna manage their Airbnb, which is, I don't know, I don't see, I mean, that's all I'm getting from this report. I could be wrong, but is that right, Mr. Mayor? Is that the
Looks like
criteria?
it, yeah. Sorry, we're trying to make a decision here. We got a motion on the floor. Councillor Lumley?
Yeah, a couple things regarding this report. The reason why I moved it, and this harkens back to, and I don't know if everyone's read the housing needs, the report. That basic principle, which in this bylaw, which I voted against, was to create long-term, like, if you read the housing needs report and look at all the data, that's impossible. Like an STR bylaw is not going to increase long-term rentals. The town just simply has a strategy to create rentals. Like Gibsons is like beyond the threshold for like single-family residence and single people living in single-family residences. That is the problem here. It's not the STR bylaw. And the second thing I like is that this was one of my ideas in the beginning, was that you'd have these little pockets of homes in certain zones. And if you look at the map, I don't know, I think it lays out perfectly. Like you've got, it's kind of spread out around the town and so on and so forth. But anyway, that's why I moved it, the recommendation. But there's a couple things. I mean, we have to attack it from the other end as well, not just an STR bylaw.
And the recommendation is only to send these out for notification to the neighbors at this point, and we will need to be digging into the criteria and deciding what our own, and possibly hearing feedback, and making our decisions at a future meeting, which will be the committee of the whole meeting. I was reminded today, just to make sure that that's clear. It's not the council meeting. I saw Councillor Thompson first. To continue discussing this motion to send out notifications to the neighbors.
Right. And I just wanted to say I appreciated that having the total RGA units authorized at time of writing number in there, because it does give us a perspective as far as, since putting this into play, where we sat prior to our no business license period, and we're still quite under that amount of what the anticipated amount of RJs were operating at that time. So thank you for including that number. It makes it very clear that we're under.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor D'Andrade.
I think, Mayor, I understand the argument made by the other councillors. I think my concern is, in a way, when we were preparing the bylaw, we were concerned that a single owner has like 5, 6 properties and do long short-term rental. But I think my concern is, based on this, anyone can have 5 properties, and as long as they put 1 renter, it's okay. So I just don't understand how much this could impact, right? And that's where I'm trying, because to me, this is, and that's okay if it's 1 case, but I think giving more points, that's the part that I'm trying to see, the long-term impact.
Okay. We will need to vote soon on this, whether we want to send out notifications or not on that, with that focus. I mean, we're talking more broadly about the intent of this bylaw and bigger conversations. We will be reviewing this bylaw as the plan of council next year, because we'll have to, the temporary use permits will run out at the end of next year, so we'll be having to review how this bylaw worked and what changes we would need to make in the future, we want to make in the future. Councillor Kroll.
Aside from moving the motion, just to the point you just sort of referred to, is the intent of the bylaw was to phase out single-family homes that are currently being used as short-term rentals, and that's the whole TUP process, and with time limits. So, I'm moving the motion, but ultimately, there's an end goal here.
So you're supporting the motion? Yes. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks for clarification. I think it was moved, yeah. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? The motion carries. Council reports, they are as written, pages 91 to 98. Colton, thank you for getting the report in quickly after grad. You had a busy week, and we'll make sure we get that in on the next agenda. Oh, is there, okay, I skipped past, okay, I don't know why. Okay, yeah. There are 2 other things here, sorry. 5.3, corporate officer, MIABC voting delegate for 2023 UBCM convention. This is very bureaucratic by MIABC, not from us this time. Yeah.
It's just a housekeeping, as MIABC requires us to provide them a resolution of council that shows that you've been appointed. So this occurs during the UBCM convention. They hold their AGM. They have a half-hour prior meeting for anyone who's new to be orientated to voting for a delegate. And then there's usually a bit of information about the MAIBC itself. I've provided a very brief piece here. If you want to know more, you can certainly read up on them online as well.
Okay, any volunteers? We need to make a motion, and I do plan on going to UBCM. If I don't make it there somehow, then we need to, either way, we need to tell them about 2 alternates. Councillor Kroll?
I had indicated that I would be attending UBCM, so I'm certainly willing.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'm attending too.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna suggest that the first 2 people who indicated are going are gonna be alternate 1 and alternate 2. You're too late. Sorry. Yeah. Alternate. Should we do alternate 3 and alternate 4? Is that what they want?
No, they just want 2 alternates. So right now I have Councillor Kroll as alternate 1. Who is alternate 2?
Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor, if someone else wants to be here, I don't need to. I'm just saying, I'm attending the UBC, so if nobody is.
We're putting you forward. So could I have a mover for that motion? Councillor Kroll, seconded Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? That motion carries. And now on to bylaws. Councillor Kroll, MIABC?
No,
did I skip something else?
Skimmed over council report.
Well, we're going to get back to it. Sorry, I jumped ahead. I just saw the word RGA there, and I thought we were, I forgot those 2 under bylaws, yeah. This is zoning amendment bylaw regarding residential RGA use for 3 consecutive months to 3 selected months in a year, and this is something we talked about back in February. And now we need to, and we also I think, gave notification that we were doing this last meeting. And now we're just second reading to this amendment, which is in the agenda, just to make sure, just to say that the months don't need to be consecutive, they can be separate. Moved by Councillor Lumley, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion of the motion? Councillor DeAndrade?
Just a question. I know we had extensive discussion, but I remember at the time the Director of Planning was concerned with capability of, going over, and I think the 3 months is easier, right? If you have someone that it's concept to enforce. I don't remember hearing that this has been resolved. I know that we have now 2 bylaw officers, but was this discussed at the meeting?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's worth asking at this point, how many of these and this might be not info that staff has on their fingertips, but how many of these Stream 1 RGAs do we actually have right now that are for the 3 months only? I'm curious to know. And how's the, is it there? Yeah. I only have the, this in front of me.
He's bringing up the director.
Okay. The Director of Planning?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have those numbers specifically for which ones are for bedrooms in a home versus 3 months of the year. So they all fall under the Stream 1 category. Oh, Kirsten might have it. We did crunch the numbers.
Hi. Yeah, through you, Mayor. I do have in the report, the previous report, it's got it broken down, which we added after the fact. So we're looking for the bedrooms in a home number, or we're looking for the 3 months?
3 months.
3 months. We have 8 listed here. There may be some counting discrepancy, but that's the number we got at this point. Yeah.
And have there been challenges enforcing those ones that the department's aware of?
I couldn't speak to that. Yeah.
Okay.
I am not aware of any challenges so far.
Okay, well, that was a question. Any other questions or discussion on this? All those in favor? That motion carries. And now we're at council reports. Are there any questions on the written reports? And yeah, like I said, we do have a report from Colton that will be in the next agenda. Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. What I find a little awkward is when I have no objection to advocacy issues on behalf of for the town, but what I find a little awkward is when something is advocated on behalf of the town, and as council we didn't know about it, and being approached by citizens, being contacted by media, and feeling like the village idiot was, I don't know what you're talking about. So I think we need to discuss sort of how that's handled, because it's truly embarrassing.
I think maybe the communications go out in the council reading file, but we should get them out. We can work on getting them out quicker. That way, like immediately to councillors. So.
Thank you, Mayor White, for the follow-up. I just think it would be appropriate that if council were consulted, I'm going to do this so we know, because putting it in a reading file that, gets caught in an email chain doesn't help us. If you've got someone on the phone from the media saying, what do you think about this?
I completely agree. Yeah, we'll work on the processes there. Yeah, and better yet, it should just immediately go out to council. I agree. Councillor Lumley?
Maybe maybe we should discuss at some point, I guess it doesn't have to be tonight, but, I mean, who should speak to the media? I know that, I know Squamish Nation, their council, they have one person that just is dedicated to discussing or meeting with the media. It's not like the media can contact any counselor and try and, because as the media goes, they're digging in stories, they're gonna do their best to cross somebody up, and if this is the case, then that's might be the perfect storm. So maybe we should have future discussions on exactly, because I'm quite fine not speaking with the media. So anyway.
Yeah, no, it's legislated that the mayor should be speaking on behalf of the council. So it's something I try to take seriously with councillor input. And the advocacy especially is something I try to follow our strategic plan, which is in draft form, unfortunately, right now. So it's not out there for everybody, but we do have all the points that we're advocating for in there. That council's been considering. But yeah, it would be, I think our protocol, I mean, used to be that certainly if any individual councillor's contacted by the media, it's something that the individual councillor would let the mayor know and let communication staff know to help coordinate the response. Councillor Kroll?
It's, through you, sir, it's not a case of speaking, council speaking for the mayor. It's council not knowing what the mayor has said and being questioned on it.
By the media?
Well, by members of the community and the media.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
you know, as far as the media was concerned, all I could say is, I don't know, you'll have to talk to the mayor.
yeah, that's fair. But we do need, I completely agree. I mean, I've seen in the past, there have been usually any advocacy straight to council. Council knows about it. And, you know, we need to tighten up those processes clearly. So thanks for bringing that to our attention. Any other questions on the reports? And now we have a motion to close, and that is under item 92B of the Community Charter, which is consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and the provincial government or federal government or both, or between provincial government and federal government or both and a third party. And specifically, this is regarding watershed protection agreement and regional application for federal funding. So we're being very transparent in saying exactly what it is. I appreciate that. It's Councillor Kroll is making a motion, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. All those in favor? The motion's carried.
And we're back.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We are legally open to the public. There is no report from in camera at this stage. And our next meeting will be held Tuesday, July 25th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Next meeting of council. And then we need a motion to adjourn. Councilor Kroll, Councilor Piedretti, all those in favor? The motion carries. Thank you, Andrew.
All right.
We really needed you for that last 30 seconds.
We do, actually.
Very important.
Yeah.